A major part of long-term document management is data retention, and the first step is actually knowing what your organization's data retention plan or your data retention policy is. And what that means is if you have records, files, these can be hard copy or digital, how long do you need to keep them? Or at what point do you need to delete or purge them? And typically people want to have a timeline so that at a certain point you can remove data. Maybe right now you have hard copies, you have boxes of records, think, well, I don't want to store these forever. So at some point, like tax records, 7 years, destroy them. I can shred them, whatever, get rid of it, open up some space. If it's digital, you can delete them. You don't need to worry about them anymore. They're gone. They're past their retention point. The other aspect of it is you probably don't want to keep records past a certain point because there may be some liability if you do have them and you're not supposed to. If you have any type of data, hard copy or digital records, you should have a data retention plan. Digitization plays a part in data retention as well because hard copies are just kind of hard to manage. Yes, you can have a process, you can have a system for data retention with hard copy materials, but it's all going to be manual. You're not going to have kind of an automated process where you can delete things more simply or purge them from your system. It's going to be manual because you have to have something remind you or inform you to purge. And if you are destroying data or purging data you don't need anymore, because they're hard copies, you probably can't just throw them away. There's probably sensitive records on there. You have to get them shredded, which requires likely an outside agency to come in and shred them for you, unless you have some industrial type shredders on site. So hard copies are a bit more tedious than digital data, and digitization can help with that by scanning your records well before the purge time and having an automated system inform you when it is time to delete data, or potentially even an automated system that purges records when they're just past their point of use anyway. At a minimum though, not having the hard copies will simplify the process because digital deletion and digital purging can be much simpler and more streamlined just because of the nature of electronic files. Now you may be thinking, well, if I'm going to be deleting records, purging records at some point because my data retention policy doesn't need me to keep these forever, why would I digitize in the first place? And that's a great question. And the answer is because it may be years away before you can get rid of these files. And depending on what types of files they are, you still may be accessing them fairly frequently, or they're just taking up a lot of space. They're just a hassle. There's the risk of loss or damage to them, like a natural disaster, a flood, a fire, whatever it is, destroying the physical copies that you are required to keep. And if you don't digitize them, you still should have them in this timeline for purging, but that timeline may be years away. So if you have a timeline of 15 years to keep records, and you have some of them that are close to that 15-year timeline, or some that are around the 10-year mark, some around the 5-year mark, well, do you really want to wait another 5, 10, 12 years and holding on to those physical copies before purging them? Maybe, maybe not. Typically, our clients will want to scan them because they're still accessing them and they just don't want to deal with the hard copy records and they just don't want to deal with the physical copies. So they scan them, they can access them more simply, they're easier to find and locate, easier to organize, and they don't have to worry about that loss of the materials when it is a physical copy because digitally, you can create backup redundancy. Now, if you have that kind of group of materials where some are newer, some are closer to their purge date, you can not scan those ones thinking, well, I'm going to get rid of these 300 boxes of records in this batch is a year away, this batch is 2 years away. I'll keep these because that's close enough. I'm going to scan all the rest of them. You can absolutely parse it up like that as well. But at a high level, you don't have to worry about going to those physical records, going to offsite storage, going to the storage room, going to cabinets, pulling out files, putting them back, scanning them, sending emails. It's just all electronic now. Simpler for you to find. You can set up that automated purge process so it notifies you when they need to get deleted, and it's just simpler to use in a digital format. And aside from just making your job easier, digitization can help with regulatory guidelines and compliance. Depending on your industry or which kind of organization you work with, you may have heard terms like HIPAA, FERPA, NIST, CGIS, other things like that. These all refer to different guidelines and compliances and regulations that certain organizations need to follow depending on the types of records they handle. And having a digital and systematic approach to your records and your document management system can absolutely help your organization comply with guidelines more simply than just having loads of paper files or microfilm or microfiche all over the place. So it's not just a ease of use accessibility thing that digitization helps with, it can also help with regulations and compliance. Those are some tips for you for data retention, how to best manage records long term. I just mentioned at the end of that some compliance regulations and guidelines, and one of them was CJIS. So if you are in law enforcement, you have to follow CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information Services, basically department of the FBI. You should check out this video on how to scan your records and comply with CJIS. So if you are scanning criminal justice information, you are doing it properly and choosing the right partner. Thank you for watching.